camera this way, but I don't know the right way.
Okay, I think this is fine.
No, I can't hold it for like an hour.
You're holding it. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay. Then you need to find. So you can put it somewhere. Yeah.
but I'm turned upside down, I can see. So
Yeah, you're turned sideways. Yes, it's true. Oh boy.
Okay, you go live. Go live. I'll figure out where we are. I can just hold it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So welcome everyone to today's episode of People Who Inspire. I'm excited to have my brother, my friend in the house. And I always get excited when I have to speak with farmers, because without them, we would be in trouble, especially in these trying times of COVID and so forth. So welcome again, everyone. Thanks for your patience and thanks for your support so far for People Who Inspire. I have Joshua, who is the founder, the CEO of Groital Farms, and we are going to look not just at what he's doing by way of the work he's doing with Groital, but also the behind the scenes, how he grew up, where he grew up, what are some of the philosophies and some of the principles that have shaped him to become the entrepreneur that he is. So Joshua, welcome to People Who Inspire.
Thank you very much.
I'm super excited.
Me too. I mean, I'm excited, but I'm also quite scared.
No need to be scared. I'm sure we can handle it just fine.
No problem.
How's your weekend going so far?
My weekend, actually, I just got home like 20 minutes ago. As I said earlier, we were processing some pineapples today, so I had to leave the team and then come home to do it. Otherwise, the office is quite noisy. It's been a busy day. I think it started about 5 a.m. and then we are still on it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it started at 5 a.m. with me getting up and then going to the office and the factory to get things ready. The staff came around 7 a.m. We did some cleaning. We waited for some pineapples to arrive from the farm for processing. And then as soon as we started processing, I had to jump out and come here to interact with you. Yeah.
Wow. And thanks so much, Joshua. I really appreciate the fact that you at least thought of our meeting to sacrifice a bit of your time to go all the way home, to make sure that this happens. I really appreciate this, and I'm sure my viewers would also agree with me on that. So, I mean, to kick the conversation started, I mean, I always say that, for the People Who Inspire platform, I'm very much interested in the process, right? The journeys that people have gone through, the journey itself, and not necessarily the destination. Or I'm not looking for people who have necessarily arrived, by our definition. people who we think are the pinnacle of whatever they are doing. But my interest really is really focusing on people who are on the journey and how much of lessons we can glean from the journey, to inspire other people. So let's start from the total startup challenge, because that's where that's where we first met. And I'm interested, what really has happened since then? I mean, we would come back to Groital, as a focal point, but just a summary of what has happened, because I know we've not had so much interaction since then.
Yeah. I think the total startup competition was, I think the first competition I participated in as an entrepreneur, and eventually you saw what happened. Ended up as a winner, and
Yes.
I started taking things more serious at that stage because this is quite some money.
Exactly.
People are going to be looking at you. Oh, he wanted to start up 2 years ago. The company is already folding up. So I think there was more responsibility, and I got the willpower to do more, not just to prove myself that I deserve winning, but also that it's an idea that I like and I believe in. So I think after Total Startup, with the money we acquired some machinery, we expanded, we extended the lease on our farm. By then, I think we're around 7 to 10 acres. And then once we won the startup part, within a year, we had gone to about 20 acres. So the money we got from Total actually helped in expanding the farm and also forcing me not to think about giving up, because I know people are going to say, yeah, you lost even though you won the competition. So yeah, so these are the two main components that happened after the Total startup. I think I will not. The other details will come as we interact, I think.
Exactly, and I'm really excited because I remember when we first met, being finalists. When we first met, for me, what really attracted me to your business was not just the idea itself, because I mean I'd met lots of farmers, but you as a person, there was a level of detail, a level of really understanding of what you were doing that for me I thought. I remember I told my co-founder, I mean, that you were likely to win because, I mean, I'd seen the other top three, interacted with them, but I knew that you stood out. I mean, that's just by way of my observation. Now
Right.
let's look at Joshua. So Joshua, can you just walk me through? So were you born in Ghana? Are you a Dadabi? Like how did you grow up? How did you grow up? Just walk us through, those key milestones where you were born,
Okay.
where you first had your basic education, SHS, and to uni at this point.
Right. Interesting. I mean, it's a very long story, but I'll try to make it as short as I can. Yeah. So my name is Joshua Ayinbora. I wasn't born Joshua. I was born with Sunday. I was also born with a name called Yomo. So it
Oh.
started with the very first instance. I'm from a polygamous home, so my dad married two, but we all keep together in one house. So it was very good upbringing to me or for me. When I was born, my mother has lost about 2 or 3 pregnancies before me due to sickle cell. I think my mother is AS, my dad is AS. So the kids that had SS died before I was born. So when I was born, in the culture, your mom will have to dispose you, and then someone who is not in your tribe will pick you up and then give your mother money to symbolize that he has bought you. So if you want, you can die. They don't care. And then give you back to your mother. So that person will then give you a name. So this person who picked me up Upper West, and he gave me a name called Yomu, which means slave in his language, because he's bought me with money. And then he gave it back to my mom. So I had a very interesting beginning, and I used to be very close to my mom because my dad was always traveling. And funny enough, this morning my mom called me around 8 a.m. that she had I'll be going on an interview, so she wants to.
Oh.
I told her just not to watch it at all. But then if she has the time to, she can watch it on my sister's phone. Yeah. So I grew up in a large family. I'm the least of 7 children, from 2 women. And I grew up in a compound house in a Zongo area in Bolgatanga. So I speak Hausa, and then I grew up with lots of people around me, with aunties, grandmothers, uncles, like everybody you can imagine. So That is from the beginning. And my house, where I grew up, everybody was selling something. My mom used to teach life skills, but then when life skills was taken out of schools, she had to invent. So she started selling fruits, and then from there she started baking bread. Until now, she still bakes. My grandmother was selling porridge at home. My aunt was selling donuts. Everyone in the house sold something. So when you buy porridge at the house, you either have an option of buying bread from my mother or donuts from my aunt or something. So everybody was selling something, and even some of my cousins at home did small things. Someone is selling peanuts here, someone is selling something. So I grew up in such a busy environment, and then went to a public school called Methodist Primary School. It's in the Upper East region. And I went there from kindergarten till I completed in JSS3 because it was quite a good school. In those days, it was quite a good school, even though it's a government school. Yeah, so I was just a usual kid. But then when I wrote junior high school examination and went to senior secondary school, I think things started changing. But then you are
Wow.
developed, you start to think of being an adult, first time being away from home. I don't have anybody in the region. I remember the first time I went to school, nobody went to see me off. I was just put in a trotro and I had to find a way around. So that's the kind of upbringing we had. I mean, you didn't get anybody following you to school, making sure you're fine. No, no, no. They put you in a trotro, you go to school, you handle yourself. 3 months time, you come home and tell the stories. So that the secondary school I went to, it's called Ghana Secondary School in Tamale.
Oh,
And I
yeah,
studied.
that's a very good school. I mean, they do well with the maths and science quiz.
The president is from that school, and the first lady is from our school as well. I mean,
Exactly, exactly.
the
The
former
form, yeah,
president, the former
former,
president,
yeah.
yeah. So they are from that school, and so I did science, and from that school, I went to UDS, University for Development Studies, and studied earth science,
Mm-hmm.
where I mining industry and then other industries. Then left to the UK to do my master's in petroleum and gas engineering, thinking that, oh my
Oh,
God,
wow.
found in Ghana. Once I
Oil
come
money.
home, UK, I'm going to be hot cake. Only the year we're finishing, oil prices dropped, and we are retrenching people. Companies were retrenching a lot of staff. So I mean, we had to find ways to survive. So in terms of education, that's what I did. I went to Bolga, then to Tamale, then to Nabrongo, and to UK, Manchester, and then
Wow.
back. Yeah.
Wow. And you know what fascinates me is that
Mhm.
for all the guests that I've had, they've
Yeah.
always mentioned one or two people who were kind of pivotal in their upbringing, and people who really kind of played a very critical role to shape them. And I'm guessing your mom plays that role. Am I correct?
My mom played a very important role, but there are a number of people that have also
Mm,
influenced the way I think. I
mm,
mean, the house I used to live in, our grandmother, late Maladi, was a very industrious woman, very
wow.
old, but she still didn't want anybody to take care of her. She wanted to work.
Wow.
She wanted to show people that at her age, she has kids that can take care of her, but then she still needed to do something out there. So she sold her porridge until she was weak and couldn't do it. And
Wow.
my mom has been instrumental till date. I mean, you are a
Mm,
teacher, you lost your job, you went to teach
mm-hmm.
someone, you started carrying fruits on your head to sell. Then from there, you had to go and learn how to bake bread, and then started baking bread, and then later she started being a cook in a school. So she's always doing something, and she's a multi-talented person. She's a cook,
Mm,
she's a fashion designer, she's whatever.
wow.
I mean, mom. So she's been a very good home. And for me, being in a polygamous home, my step
Yeah.
siblings played a very important role. I mean, my
Mm,
stepmother loved all of us equally,
mm.
and our mothers, only we in the family knew that they were actually rivals.
Ah,
People
okay.
sisters, just because of
Wow.
how two women work together to make sure that all the kids have equal treatment and they enjoy the same benefits and all that. So these three women, my mother, my stepmother, and my grandmother, really played a very big role in bringing me up. And when it comes to discipline, grandmother was the pinnacle. She would beat you before you come
They
home.
always are.
You have lots of insults for me. Everybody in the house had an insult, and if you do something wrong, she doesn't have filters. She will just tell you exactly how it's supposed to be. So anytime you're doing something, always thinking, if this woman sees me doing this, and what she would tell me to take me a week to forget. So you try to. So these three people always shaped us together. My dad was an away dad. He was working a lot, so he spent very little time at home. So we didn't have that bonding that we had with our parents as siblings. I lost you briefly. I can hear you.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Good.
Oh, okay. So I was just wondering. So what did you study when you went to Manchester? So I'm trying to understand at what point,
Mm-hmm.
did you move from the pure sciences to really? I mean, definitely you studied petroleum engineering, but I want to like understand how did you handle the disillusionment that came with the fact that okay, Ghana has discovered oil. I'm going to be a
Yeah.
hot cake, but then I come back and I'm not as hot as I thought
Yeah.
I should be. So how did you handle that? That's interesting for me.
Interesting. Okay, I think for me, um, I'm the kind of guy who, if you give me A and I'm sitting with A, I'm trying to look out for B, even though if I'm not ready for it. So when I was in the UK, 6 months into my course, I was applying
Mm-hmm.
for career fairs and all that. So I went to an interview in London. And this interview, they were looking for civil engineers, but then they
Mm-hmm.
shortlisted me for the interview. I don't know why, but because of my experience in some African countries, because prior to going to my master's, I had worked in about 6 other countries, just short terms. So they wanted someone to talk to. When I went there, the person was like, you're not a civil engineer. We need a civil engineer to do this. And I was like, no. I'm not a civil engineer, but I'm an F scientist. Anything you have to put on the earth, we have to advise you. So we work hand in hand with civil engineers. And I actually just thought I've just said this thing because I needed to say something for a question. So 6 months into my master's, I got a job. I was offered a job.
Oh,
That was the
wow.
thing. But they said, okay, you can't work in the London office because you're not yet a citizen and blah, 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 blah. So, and I couldn't also start because I'm only 6 months into the program. I still had like 8 months, 6 months to 8 months to finish. So the interviewer actually, I don't know what happened, but the interviewer
Mhm.
lobbied me for the company to postpone my start date till the day I finished school. So
Oh,
finished, I did my presentation, defended my thesis. Like a week later, I was home on a Sunday. The next Monday, I started work with this new company because they were opening a branch in Ghana. They needed somebody.
okay.
Whilst I was there, of course, when I applied for this job, I had applied for other oil and gas related jobs. But I mean, none of them, I mean, you go for the interview, you hear from us, you don't hear from anybody. And this was like a safety net. So I tried everything I could to make sure that, I mean, I was always, even though I was in the UK, I was still doing my master's. They gave me access to company address and all that. So I was just responding to emails whilst I was studying. So as soon as I came home, I jumped into something outside petroleum and gas engineering, went back into my first degree as a geologist. And I've been working for this consulting firm till date.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay, so I like that. I like the revelation. So, I
Mhm.
mean, this really fascinates me because I've had a lot of interactions with students, and most of them, I think whilst they're in school, still think like students. They kind of don't have this long-term vision of I can still do something whilst I'm in school. And how did you how did you have that impetus to go outside what is the norm? I mean, I'm really thinking what drives you to do such a thing?
So, to answer the question, I'll give a scenario. I
Uh-huh.
remember all the guys who won Talo scholarship to go abroad, we were asked to convene at Talo head office
Mm-hmm.
in the UK for an interaction with the staff. So when I was going there, I had call cards, something like a business card, my name, my
Mm-hmm.
address, my address, what I'm studying now, what I'm looking for on a small card. So when I went there after the interaction, I just went straight to human resource. Oh, this is my card. It was like a student with a card. I was like, yeah, it just contains details. He started asking me, you're the only person who's brought a business card here. Why? I was like, oh, I just want people to have my address. And maybe I don't know if I'm going to mention my number for you now. I don't know whether you even have time to type it in or something. So she took interest. And then we started talking. And then she also wanted to offer me a job. But then I told her that I got this current company when I was about finishing. So to go back to your question, um, I think earlier on in my life, after I finished secondary school, I came down to Tema to help my elder sister. And I had to avail myself to do everything else, just similar to what a houseboy does. So she had a comm center in Tema Community One Market. So I go to sit there and help. Those days, someone coming to do a phone call, fax, and whatever. So one day I was sitting there and someone brought a book and said, oh, he wants to leave this book with me. And
Mm-hmm.
then he comes for it. And the book was from Napoleon Hill, 17
Mm-hmm.
Principles of Personal Achievement. So I took the book and I started reading the blurb. And then
Mm-hmm.
afterwards, the book is actually asking questions. Like the first question chapter was like, if you don't have a destination in life, you will never set off and you don't know what you can achieve and blah, blah, blah. And it was the
Mm.
first from someone from Boga and always thinking timid and just be by yourself to
Yeah,
hear.
exactly.
So the guy came for the book and I told you know what, leave this book. I want it tomorrow. You can come for it. So the next day he came and I was in chapter 2. So I gave him the book and I was like, I need to buy this book. My sister wasn't paying me; she was keeping the money. So when I go to school, she gives it to me. So I used to work for me to want to come to every day to see. So
Mm-hmm.
the transport she gives me, I save that to buy this book. And then she
Mm.
goes to transport. So what happens is I have to run so fast to get to the house before she notices that I work. Once she knows I work, she'll never give me transport again. So I did everything I could to save money. Then I bought this book, and that was the eye opener.
Wow.
I mean, the book is always talking about taking the extra mile. So
Mm.
this extra mile thing has been with
Mm.
me to date. So wherever
Wow.
I am, I want to take the extra mile. If you tell me to prepare a presentation for you, I want to make it like I've been working on it for a year now. If you ask me
Mm-hmm.
to write a report for you, I want to make it as if I know the subject matter since childhood because I'll research and do it. And the reason is extra miles don't really take a lot of effort for you. It's just small
Mm.
things that usually would push you higher. So if I'm in a situation that the biggest drive for me is this the best I can be in this
Mm.
situation? If the
Mm-hmm.
answer is no, then what else can I do? I'll
Mm.
try it. If I fail it, I've done it. But it's better than not doing it at all and assuming that everyone is hard and there's no opportunities and blah, 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 blah. So I usually prefer to just take small steps without any high expectations. If it happens, fine. If it doesn't happen, I move on. So that taking an extra mile from the book has been my drive since
Wow.
since secondary school till date.
Wow, wow. I like this because I think a lot of times people underestimate the power of books.
Yeah.
And whenever I get the chance to interact with people,
Mm-hmm.
I always say that I'm able to kind of tell if they are well read on a subject or not, you know.
Right.
And I remember when I first met you at the Total Startup Challenge, I mean, I
Yeah.
could tell that, look, this guy knows his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Even look, I was like, even if this guy does not win, he knows his stuff. You know, I
Yeah.
think that's very important lesson that you've taught us, that even
Mm-hmm.
if your expectations are not met, you know within yourself that you did your best and you
Yeah.
put in, you know, the best that you could. So
That's right.
I like that. So now coming back to the farming topic. So
Mm-hmm.
you've left Manchester. This company has brought you to Ghana, and like you said, you're still working with them. But at what point did
Mm-hmm.
Joshua, the engineer, say, "Okay, I'm going into farming"? Of course, you have the earth science background
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But at what point did this whole farming idea come? How did it start?
Um, I think when I got a job, I mean, I remember that night, I was like, hey, this is a very good job. And the salary, when they showed me in the offer, it was really nice. And I was like, if I don't start putting this money into something, I'm sure my problems would arise to the level that it will keep consuming all the money. So I was thinking, what
Exactly.
what else can I do? I thought of fashion. I thought of a lot, everything you can imagine in this world that is business. I was thinking, why can't I stay with and be sponsoring young musicians? So when they make it, they pay me back. I was thinking of so many things. Then I decided to look at, I think I was just curious one day. I saw the World Bank Africa report. Every year they write a report for each continent and country. So when I zoomed into Africa, they were just talking about agriculture being the next goal, agriculture being the next thing for Africa. Africa has the nicest weather. So all these things about agriculture. So I decided to dig in properly. So I was now searching for other reports that gave like some genuine research into the potential of agriculture. Then I decided to slow down all the other options I was thinking about, and then I zoomed in into farming. I didn't know what to farm, but I mean, I had a lot of time to do research on it. I had no background in agriculture, but I knew that, I mean, it's just a matter of studying, understanding, and trying it. If it fails, it's not the end of the world. You pick up your baggage and then you try again. So those two reports, African World Bank report for Africa and the Africa Economic Outlook report, it's a very good report. Even till date, every year they publish it. I just go through and see what other countries are doing in terms of in the continent, what they are doing in their space, and you will realize that of all these business ideas I've thought about, I mean, in a day you eat like 3 or 4 times. But then if you buy a, like you are someone like me, you bought a shirt, you can wear it for a year and nothing will happen. I don't change shape, I don't change body size, so clothes that I have don't fit. So I don't buy. I looked at all these things like this is one thing that if I get myself into and I get it right, I will make money. So what then do I plant? What then do I do? How do I start? But then I was still over there. So I started talking to a few friends and finding out what farming was. When I came home immediately, the plan was already matured. I went to talk to a few friends that were in the food processing area. And then they started giving me tips. I mean, mango is good, but then when you plant mango, this is what will happen. And I think I met, I saw a matrix that someone has published on various crops and their risk profile. So if you do mango, this is the risk. If you do pineapple, this is where you can do mango. Then I zoomed in, I took off some things that didn't matter. And then I zoomed in, but even zooming in into pineapple didn't stop me. On our farm, I'm sure we've tried like 50 things. Sometimes the farm manager get pissed with me. I hear something goes well, then I get some seed. Let's try. You know, let's do. If it doesn't work, at least we tried. So it, it's those reports. It was a point of realization that I mean, Africa has the world's 60% of the world's arable land, which is a very competitive area. And when you look at the entire industry or the entire economy, the only aspect that Africa is competitive is agriculture. That is the only aspect because we have the best of weather. We have 60% of the entire world's, how do you call it, arable land. We have the labor required. We have stability. We don't have snow that you guys have and you're struggling with it. So we look at the opportunity, and when I look at it in terms of opportunity, it seems agriculture was the only one that you can easily compete globally because of the advantages that we had. So that was when I decided, I mean, I think this is it, but I will take my time. And so I arrived in October. I think somewhere December, we had already going to look at some land because I wanted to be quick before I spend all the savings. And
Exactly.
then we started with just half an acre experimentation. And now it's like 30 acres here.
Wow. And I mean, what you know, I had the opportunity to think through this agriculture journey. For most people, I think that the initial questions that come to people's mind when they think agriculture is where am I going to get the money from? Where am I going to get the land from? And you know, who is going to, let's say, sponsor me or finance me? So I mean, if you can share with us what are some of the lessons that you've learned as far as first acquiring the land, because people always would tell you land is expensive and so forth, and they will tell you agriculture is, you need, you know, like $1 million to start with. You know, what would be your advice based on the lessons that you have learned in this journey of yours?
The advice is, if you want to start farming and you've never farmed before, don't start 10 acres. Don't start 5 acres. Start 1 acre. And that 1 acre, use it as a learning step. I'm going to use this 1 acre and I'm going to plant 3 or 4 items. And of these 3 or 4 products I'm going to farm, at the end of 12 months, I should know which one I want to stick to. So by the time you selected a choice of product, you would have learned a few lessons. I see people, I mean, Ghana imports 9% and $9 million worth of tomatoes from Burkina. So let's do tomatoes. Tomatoes is very difficult. You need to try it first. You see that it works in your environment before you actually go large scale. So we started with just half an acre for pineapple. And then it's something that takes 1.5 years. There's enough time to make all the mistakes and to learn. So after the 6th month, I started seeing that there's a potential in this. I went to talk to a guy at Blue Skies, and then we went to HPW to talk to them and other companies. And we saw that the potential is there. So once the potential, when you're putting in money, you are not afraid. Of course, there are issues with land. I mean, we want to expand. We can't expand because we are limited. People have acquired all the land around us. But you have to start somewhere. If you even start with 1 acre and you have the experience of managing a 1 acre farm or making it bear fruit, you selling it and seeing the consequences. When you go to talk to someone about financing, they will listen to you because you know it. But if you haven't done it before and you just want someone to give you money to start from scratch, you won't survive because agriculture is a very difficult venture. It's one of the few ventures that you are dealing with the forces of nature every day. If it rains too much, you're in trouble. If it rains less, you're in trouble. So it's all the forces of nature against you. But what you have to understand is don't go there with high expectations. Okay, Ghana makes $9 million from tomatoes. I'm coming to do 1 million. I mean, I'm coming if I even get 1% of this or 10% of this 9 million. It doesn't work like that. I mean, you can go and plant, do everything. The next day, pests come and they destroy everything. And you can't do anything. You can't sue anyone. So when it comes to the financing bit, you need to bootstrap it at least for the first 1 or 2 years. Sink in your cash. When you see it burn, you know, this is my money I'm losing. You put in measures to secure your funding. And when you talk to someone, you have evidence to show that we tried it ourselves. It worked or this didn't work. I've had people come to me and was like, I had a meeting with the owner of Starbites in Ghana, and we were talking about lettuces and stuff like that. I mean, this is good contract, but first of all, I don't have the experience in lettuces. Two, the small experience we tried, it was a very bitter experience, and the reality is we didn't do the right thing. I mean, when you look at our neighborhood where we plant, we just plant pineapples. So all the things that will affect like lettuces and others are dormant because they don't even.
Okay.
When you plant lettuce, it's like a party for all the pests in that area descend on your lettuces, and then you understand that it's one thing to see it in the book, and there's another thing to take a contract to fulfill it. So there are certain things I wouldn't do, even if you come and tell me that okay, I mean there's a huge contract, you can meet it. I wouldn't, because from my experience, my location, and my finances, I will take a step back and do something that I have tried and tested. So usually people tell me, and I tell you know what, just take 1 acre of land, divide it into 8, try a bit of tomatoes, a bit of pepper, a bit of this, a bit. You after the cycle, you know which one is done well. You know which one you've suffered less to get to keep alive. Then you can start investing your money in it. Banks don't give money to people who are starting farm afresh, and I understand them because a lot of the risk they cannot curb. What can you do to stop the rain? What can you do to, even if you have irrigation and the groundwater is finished or the what can you do? So there's a lot you cannot control. So if you go to the bank and want money for a farm, they'll ask for collateral, and the collateral has to be about the same amount of money. I mean, the same value.
Exactly. What you're asking for.
You know, so people lament a lot about banks, and I understand that if I have money and you come to me, Prince, that you need money to farm, I'm sure the negotiations will take like 10 days because I want to make sure that you do something that we know that will not lose entirely. You know, so beautiful ideas about agriculture, but some of them haven't really tried these things to see these things can survive even in the areas that they are considering to locate their farmland. So for financing, you will not get it. So what you can do is to apply for grants, and there are lots of grants. These are not big monies, $5,000 here, $10,000 here, and then once you start taking these small grants to help you build your farm or build some track record or participate in total startup, get money and expand the farm so that you can get free money. Nobody will chase you at the end of the year. So you can get grants.
I like this principle of starting small. You know, there's really a big lesson for us all to learn. I think we are so much bombarded with, you know, success stories all over social media. Of course, that is well curated. So when we see the success stories of people who we deemed to have arrived, we think that, oh yes, they just woke up one day and then, you know, built a farm, you know, and then that's it. They started making the money. So really, the lesson here, if you're watching this, is start small. Like Joshua said, you know, you can experiment when it's a 1 acre, you know, divide it into 8, like he said, you know, an experiment with, you know, different crops to see at the end of the season, you know, which one is more viable. Now, Joshua, let's come to the topic that we are going to discuss here. We are using Groital as the really case study because that's your farm. First of all, can you tell us what is Groital Farms, and I mean, what do you do? What is your vision? What do you seek to achieve with the farm? Before we get into the agribusiness bit of it, can you tell us a little bit about your company?
Okay, so Groital Company Limited, actually called Groital, is just from the phrase "grow it all." So we took the GR from
Okay.
from the word Groital. So yeah, that is the company. It was started in 2014, and then at that time we started it because after the small research, we realized that pineapple was an area that there was a big opportunity. There's consistent market and it's lower risk in terms of other compared to other products. So we started by planting pineapples. And in the first 2 years after planting pineapples, signing an agreement with the company to supply them pineapples, we started seeing other opportunities. Why don't we try vegetables? Because we did some pepper and ShopRite really liked it. So we invested into greenhouses, started some vegetable farms for ShopRite. But as soon as we were into that, 6 months into the line, ShopRite started getting lots of vegetables from Volta region. So they will call you today, bring 20 kilos. Meanwhile, you have 100 kilos ready on the farm. And then they'll tell you, oh, no, next week we are not taking. So we really got bitten by that, and we slowed down, went back to our original plan of doing pineapple. So
Oh
now,
boy.
4 years into the entire process, we were faced with post-harvest losses. I remember some time ago, we planted 6 acres of papaya or pawpaw, which is about like nearly like 1,000 and something trees. We only woke up the next morning and then locusts ate everything.
What?
We tried again second time. I mean, you see the plant, the next day you go there, you see only a stem. You don't see a leaf on it. It's all
What?
gone.
Seriously?
Yeah. So we tried and we tried 5 times, nothing. So the sixth time we succeeded because there was a huge market for pawpaw. And when I meet with my team and the talkative among them, pawpaw is just one crop. It can give you lots of fruit. The fruit is one seed. If you did the calculation, that can take us out of blah, 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 blah. Then we did it. Finally, we succeeded. And guess what? We couldn't even get one person to buy papaya from our farm. So the fruits were dropping. They were getting rotten. At some point, I was even looking for people to just come and harvest it for free. Because when our pawpaw was ready, Blue Skies stopped processing pawpaw all of a sudden. This is where I don't know what is happening in the industry, but they stopped processing pawpaw, so nobody was buying pawpaw. And at that time, we started thinking, what else can we do apart from farming? So the idea of processing came up. We tried jams and realized that Ghanaians don't like jams. It's just like, bread and then kosi sandwiched in between. So
exactly.
we tried juices. We realized that the competition in the juice market is fierce. And the value chain, I mean, the logistics you need to have a proper functioning juice factory.
Exactly. Even the cold chain. Yeah.
Exactly. So we took that out and then we started drying. So we bought a very small dryer the size of a rice cooker, and that was at my house. So every week I go to the farm. Every week I go to the farm, I bring fruits and I keep drying, trying different settings, different dryness level. And then 2 years after doing that, now we have a medium scale factory that we dry like 1 ton of product per cycle or per day. So Groital, we cultivate pineapples, we process the pineapples, and then we sell to either local markets or the export market. But we haven't still stopped selling fresh pineapple.
Okay.
We still sell fresh pineapple to factories. Pineapple that the factories cannot take. Usually because pineapples, the factories will not take a certain shape or a certain size. These ones usually are considered rejects. It's what we take and then we process on our factory. We also buy from other farmers who have similar fruits that they want to sell. So we aggregate these fruits and then to increase our profitability. And we process them. And just recently, you saw on my LinkedIn, we managed to secure our first export, which we did it to Netherlands. And we are looking forward to a second one. So
you're breaking into the European market and international markets soon. That's really, I mean, Joshua, this is like you mentioned something that really kind of drew my attention to the fact that with this pawpaw example you gave. So, we tell our success stories and people don't know that we failed at certain things in the past. And I'm happy you share this, that you understood that, look, this is not it. after that, I mean, there's no point in still pushing when even you are able to harvest and now there are no buyers and stuff like that. Can you share with my viewers, for example, how do you handle failure? I mean, in this case, you are the team leader. You
Yeah.
rallied the team towards Pawpaw. You tried it
Mhm.
like 5 times, you said, and then
Mhm.
eventually, when you got the harvest, then there are no
Mhm.
buyers. So,
Yeah.
how do you handle such a thing, as a leader?
I think as a leader, failure is part of everyday life. I mean, of course, the first few days you're going to feel bad. I mean, you're going to lose confidence in all the research and
Exactly.
sometimes all the prayers you've said on the farm. So, how I handle failure is this. I always tell myself there's nothing new under the sun. I mean, you might think that I failed, I've done this, but someone is even going through worse. So what do I have to do? I'll cry, I'll be sober a couple of days, but I pick up my baggage and then I go on. I'm even lucky that, I mean, to me, I feel like I'm even lucky that we've survived this. What if we had taken a loan to do it? So I started looking at the options. What if we had done it in this portion? So the way I handle failure simply is I look at other people who are going through worse situations and I take solace in my faith.
Exactly.
I go on. I go on to the next thing. Yeah.
Mm, and thanks for sharing this. So I mean, it's fascinating. So you started Groital, you tried a few things, failed at a few things,
Yeah.
and now for my viewers who are watching, I mean, Joshua is in Ghana. He's growing pineapples for both local and international consumption, and then he's processing pineapples. Joshua, from everything you've shared with us, I mean, we all know theoretically that there's so much opportunity in the agribusiness. So not just the raw farming, but the agribusiness, which you rightly mentioned that you've started processing. Can
Mm-hmm.
you share with us, right, in the agricultural value chain, right? What are some of the opportunities for my viewers who are watching from the agribusiness perspective that they can pick on? Is it the logistics? Is it the supply chain aspect? Is it the transportation? Is it like
Mm-hmm.
what can you share with us that we can learn from you today on identifying these opportunities?
Right. So when we look at agriculture, starting from seed formation
Mm-hmm.
to buying the seed, transporting it to the farm, planting, harvesting, processing, selling, these are all businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to look at where you suit best. For instance, if you have a background in logistics, of course, you are not going to have money to buy trucks and start a logistics business. You can start somewhere. For me, processing has always been our like the goal when we started 5 years ago. We actually said in our business plan that 5 years we start processing, and then our
Wow.
seeds actually did. So eh, you have to look at an area that you think you can play well, start it somewhere else, and grow it. If I look at the agribusiness sphere, logistics aspect is seriously lacking in this country.
Okay.
Meanwhile, it's a massive opportunity for people.
Mm.
Why do I have to farm and still worry about how I can carry it to the market when there's someone I can call to come and carry it and sell it, and then I don't have to get too involved, or if I'm going to be involved, it's just prices and monies and stuff I'll be talking. And then
Mm-hmm.
when you to the various markets, it was a business that we're thinking of pursuing earlier on. When fresh products come
Uh-huh.
and market women aren't able to sell it. When you check in the boxes or the stores they keep their products, there's tomato, there's shoes, there's paint, there's everybody keeps products.
Exactly.
So if you have market, you have an opportunity. And every small market in Ghana or a major market, go for a couple of stores. Make it look nice. Cold
Mm-hmm.
store. Let the market woman come put their tomatoes in. A day, they just pick exactly what they want to sell. When they finish, they come back. So they don't have to put in a very unsanitary
Mm.
environment. That is an entire business on itself that
Wow.
some people are implementing. Now, when
Mm.
it comes to processing, there's so much to do with agriculture that sometimes people forget that cosmetics are actually from agricultural products. Clothing
Ah, yeah.
products. Perfumes are from agricultural products. Spices,
Mm,
oils. So
never thought of that.
anything
Mm.
that you stick on and use at home is an agricultural product. So you just have to find where you think ticks. But one thing I've noticed about our colleagues in Ghana or some people is that once people hear that people are doing cannabis and there's market in it, oh my God, everybody starts rushing to cannabis to do the practice cultivation. And I
Quick.
remember we brought some strawberries from from Northern Africa to plant on our farms.
Uh-huh.
90% calls we got, weren't people interested in buying. They want to cultivate some. Can I get seedlings to buy? Can I do? You don't know what I'm going through to prepare the land. So when people hear, people get excited. Right now, cannabis is hot thing. People hear that when you do it, this is what you will get, and then people are rushing to make sure there's license to do it. Leave the primary cultivation for others. Look at the next big thing. What we said was, why would I want to be competing with blue skies for raw materials? No. Let me focus on an area where they don't focus. You can then come after me and say, well, if I process the pineapple, can I take them as raw materials and add them to cereal or cornflakes and sell? Which is an that Kellogg and other people are doing. And then once you finish that, can I be a known person for distribution agricultural products? That is an entire step by itself. And then later, can I link a consumer to where the products are sold? So when you look at the value chain, there are opportunities right there. It's just that once you go above primary cultivation, the capital requirement to take advantage of those opportunities is huge.
Okay.
So you have to end up either just trying to find money, or if you have the money you put into it, that would be very good. But if you don't have the money, as I said earlier, you have to start somewhere and then you build it slowly until you can get to a stage where there's enough money to invest in bigger areas. So when I look at the value chain, there's a lot of opportunity. As I cited with the cold storage for market, there's issues of sorting, there are issues of transportation that needs to be handled. And then there are issues of pesticide and seeds where other people are, they just manufacture friendly pesticides. And right now, if you are not investing in agriculture, you need to start getting worried because the whole world is going vegan. And all vegan stuff are plant-based. Who is going to plant those ones for the vegans to eat? So there, if you identify that, when I look at opportunities today, I see things as plant-based protein, which is a very huge market. Now there's alternative burgers, which are plant, there's milk, there's this and there's that. And if you are looking today, if you are watching today, I think, okay, where can I put my research in agriculture? Put it in plant-based protein and see whether 5 years now, people wouldn't start jumping in because the global animal protein industry is sinking. And now the products are taking place. So if you are looking for an opportunity, that is where you should start looking for now.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm very happy you touched on the whole value chain thinking. I think that a lot of people usually kind of look at the silo thinking kind of and it doesn't help. I have a few questions that people have sent that I would like to so, and a few comments as well. So Emmanuel Chigbe is asking, how do you prevent theft on your farm? And then his second question, he sends two questions. So theft on the farm, how do you prevent that? And number two, what's the best way to market agri-produce as a new entrant? So the marketing aspect,
Okay, so I handle the first one. How do you prevent thefts from your farm? That's a very difficult question. If you have money, fence the farm. If you have money, you fence it off and nobody is going to be there. But there are a number of things that people put in place for security. I mean, don't go with high-tech, CCTV and all that. First of all, there are hedge plants. You know, some of these plants they use for hedges are quite thorny. Plant those ones on your farm. Give them a little fertilizer. 3 months' time, they are going to fence your farm. And then because of the thorns, it will be hard for people to go through it to steal your product. And that is something that people apply in a lot of areas. And because it's also a plant, you don't really have to invest so much except getting the seedlings or seeds, plant it around your farm. And then 3 months down the line, you have a very good fence that will prevent people. The other aspect of keeping, farm security is just having people on the farm. Put up a shed and let one or two of your staff over there and let them take care of the farm. That way you'll be able to be assured. You will reduce theft, but you will not be able to eliminate it. Once you should expect some amount of theft. The second question about marketing as a new entrant is there's no straightforward answer because when you go to big companies, they don't want to deal with you. You are new. And I'll tell you why. Big product companies put a responsibility to their consumer. So when Nestle buys corn from you, Cerelac, and a baby ends up dying, Nestle is at its reputation. So they want to make sure nobody just walks into the factory, I have 1 acre maize, okay, bring it. They don't do that. They want to make sure that you understand what you are bringing. If you can have about 20 acres of maize, they know you are serious about the business. So they will give you a listening ear. But if you are not there yet, deal with the market women. Let me give you an example. When we have pineapples, sometimes we prefer to sell to the market women than the factories. The reason
Okay.
is that the factory, you are going to bring a truck to your farm. You are going to hire laborers to harvest it, sort it out, take it to the factory, offload it, wait for 2 weeks or 3 weeks to get paid. If you get a responsible market woman, she comes there, of course, be ready to negotiate. But if you negotiate well, you're going to get your money right there and then. That cost of transportation is eliminated. So when you look at it, eventually it pans out to be about the same amount. So you can start by selling to market women or looking for people who have shops, corner shops, and then try to build that trust that people buy your products and they are fine. Then when you reach a certain stage where you have very basic certification like Global Gap, you can then go and talk to the very big companies. We were an exception to supply to the Swiss company. What happened was that we're having lunch at a restaurant in Sawam, and then we're talking about food, and then we need to find a market. And the person sitting next to us was actually working for HPW with a Swiss company. So it was like, are you? And of course, like, yes, he gave me his number. I spoke to him. They came, did an inspection on the farm, and then they said you could start supplying. But by then, we were already 20 acres.
Okay. So you had a capacity.
They will still say the same thing. You need to have this and that. So if you want to market your product, start by targeting the market women. As you grow and you get the experience of dealing with food quality and traceability and all those things, the big companies always need raw materials, but they don't buy raw materials from anybody. They want to make sure that your material is good for them, and then they can trust it when they are using it in their final product. So yeah, that's what I can say.
I like your response, Joshua. I think that it's, I mean, when you think about marketing products, you know, dealing with like a B2B setup usually requires an extra effort, like you said, certification, quality control, the fruits or the output should be in a specific dimension, specific shape, and so forth. So I fully agree. There are some questions here also from, so this question is from Adam. So Adam Anoma says, great work, guys. Okay, this is a comment. Good to see the diaspora coming back and helping the Ghanaian economy. And he sent a question. So my question would be, if Joshua could expand on the process of entering the processing side of the agribusiness. So that's his question.
Can I take that or have to wait for another question?
So he actually sent a follow-up to that question. Same Adam, he says, okay, so the first one, it says how to enter the processing side, and then he said, was skilled labor ever a challenge in relation to this processing side as well, especially within the processing industry? What were the challenges and their solutions?
Adam, that's a very big question, but then
exactly.
To my understanding, my experience. So earlier on in the conversation, I said, when we were looking at processing, as far as 2 years ago, I bought an oven the size of a rice cooker and I started drying from home. Now, by the time we started convincing investors that we wanted to process, I knew exactly what temperature would give me the best output, who are the competitions in the industry, how much it needs to buy a bigger machine, how much it needs to set up an entire factory to start processing. So the challenge in the processing industry is that you need to start working backward. Okay, I want to be processing maybe cassava into starch or ethanol. If I remove the biggest components of the investment, what next can I do? What next can I do? So you keep scaling it until you can afford it. Let me give you an example. When we started processing, United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization visited our farm to see how we use solar irrigation. What they did was that I processed dried pineapple to make sure they bought it. I took the pineapples with me and told my farm to make sure every participant buys 2. So we ended up selling pineapples. And because these are experts, they know what dried products are. Lots of feedback was given that day, even though we didn't give it for free. They gave us feedback. The next time another person visited our farm to work on something different in the neighborhood, I sold dried pineapple for him. Eventually, this person ended up in the Netherlands, and they were like, this guy does very good dried pineapple. But by then, it was still at home. Then one thing led to the other, and we got this investment. When I was processing at home, I was selling to Nestle. I have a friend, I'm sure he's listening, John. John would buy and go and sell to the HR who organizes seminars, and they were using it as seminar, as using it as a snack for their seminars. So they were
Okay.
every week 50, 100, 50, 100. And then you start building it up from there before you get money. The second thing is that there are lots of food fairs. Unfortunately, because of COVID, most of these have been put on hold. But there were lots of food fairs, farmers market, and things happening around Accra. So if you can process, if your product you are thinking is something you can process in a small scale, these are opportunities for you to take them to these shops or these shows and then sell the product, get people's feedback, and build a small customer base so that when you start talking to investors one day about your business, you can say, oh, when I those days, I used to say Nestle buys my product. People thought like the Nestle company itself. No, they didn't know that was just an HR who buys for a department.
Exactly.
You get the receipts. People see that the money came from Nestle. So even though it's no money. So these are the things that you do to penetrate the processing phase. Because if you want to start big, it will take you a very long time before you can get the capital requirement. But if you have the capital requirement and you want to go in there, you can, but then be ready for all the competitions and all the problems that you can face with. You mentioned questions with human resource with regards to the processing. So when I start, if you don't know, there's a company called PFS. So PFS is supposed to provide partners in food solutions. I Googled them, to their office, and these guys are supposed to help. It's a semi-NGO type of where people who have retired in the food processing industry are just available to give you free advice. So these guys have worked for the Nestle's and all the big guys.
Really?
And
I never knew.
so there's PFS, so they are there. You register. You can ask all the questions in the world. They'll give you, because these are retirees, they have a lot of time for people. You can hear them. They have an office in Accra where you can go and meet some of their staff here. But if you go to the office here, they'll give you advice, but they won't give you the necessary support. Like, for instance, help you through certification. Those things, they have limits. The only companies making a minimum of, I don't know where they said $500,000 or something like that. I hadn't even made 20 Ghana cedis at the time. I went there and I was okay, can I get your number? Anytime I have issues, I'll call you. So these guys worked actually as consultants for setting up the factory. And basically it was purely nothing. Sometimes you meet at a hotel, you pay the person's lunch and make sure you take a lot of notes. Just hear the wisdom the person has, plan, you meet the next person again. And with that, you as an individual that is investing in the business or leading the team, you're not going to be a master, but you have a broad knowledge of whatever you're doing. Then, as soon as you start, you can start by part-time staff. So you have a food quality guy who has a job. He works maybe at Nestle or something. This person comes Friday and Saturday just to tell you how you should run things to make it work. So if you start, you're not going to have money to employ a food safety guy or a lab. So when I started, I went through to a friend, and later that friend's friend knew somebody who was working in the dry pineapple industry. So we took a number, we started exchanging contacts, and a lot of the advice I got it from him, even though he's never been stepped a foot in where we are processing. So you need to make contacts. If you don't chase the contacts, go to PFS, go to everywhere you can, and then you look for the right people to help you for free.
Wow. I never knew about PFS. So, I mean, for those of you watching, this is an important, resource that Joshua has mentioned. I think the lesson that I'm learning here, again, it comes to starting small and also having an inquisitive mind. Be inquisitive, right? It's not, it can't be served on a silver platter all the time. Like you rightly said, you find out, Google it, talk to people, make trips to various offices, and find out exactly how you can get these support. And usually it amazes people that there are a lot of people out there who are willing to help you for free. It's amazing. The only issue is most of us don't take the step. So we don't take that step. And so if I met you and I see that you are not doing anything, you are just, speaking theories and business plan, but you haven't actually started something, even if it's small, if you're not started, I don't take you as seriously as someone who has at least 1 acre somewhere and he's doing some, hustling here and there. Any consultant with vast experience would give you some word of wisdom or advice that can
Yeah.
help you, move to the next stage. So I think
Yeah.
that that's an important one. Another question here, Joshua, from Emmanuel. Emmanuel says that how can one enter the foreign market? I think this is in relation to your, let's say, your latest breakthrough with the European market, because
Yeah.
the rules and the requirements are stringent. I mean, I do supply chain here, so I understand what you might have gone through. So the question is, how does one enter the European market?
Okay, so fortunately, Europe is one of the easiest markets to enter, but also one of the strictest markets. An
Okay.
example, you go to the European Union website and you go to a particular place about supply standards and export. There's a whole questionnaire on if you want to export to Europe, what you should have. Basically, have this certification, make sure you have this, check this, have this kind of results. So all this will be put on your lap, but these are over 200-page documents. And if you are not someone who likes reading, you just look at the first page, scroll down to the last page,
And
and
then you give up.
you need to take time and look into these things. And then there are pointers in these documents because funny enough, all the products we have in Africa, people need them globally. Fortunately, even if you have
Wow.
pineapple in Africa, you have pineapples in Asia, the African ones are always good. So people are hungry for your product. When you go to various countries, even Agua website, when you go there, they will give you exactly what you should do, potential buyers. And then you start going into it. I remember when we last year, I wanted to penetrate the Dubai market. So I went to LinkedIn and I was looking for the chefs and then the people who work for the 7-star hotel. I added all the guys. None of them responded to my request on LinkedIn. I keep following up. One guy responded, I messaged him. He was like, because of Corona, the hotels were down. But then when things go up, I can still talk. He can link me up to somebody. Then in my curiosity, I actually found out that the Dubai Chamber of Business had organized a program that they wanted to tell people how to get products into Dubai. And that was actually a very resourced seminar. So because of research, nobody told me that, oh, I've heard that Dubai is organized, Dubai's Chamber of Stuff. You just research, you keep following things, reading stuff, and then you will come by it. To penetrate in the foreign market, first of all, volumes count and consistency. So if you have some 10 acres or 20 acres, it will be hard for you to penetrate the foreign market because the orders are huge. For instance, the order that we exported, we are only exporting half to the client because we tried everything we could, but we were not able to still meet it, and the timelines were there. So we tried partnering with other companies, which is the next thing we'll be doing for the next order, so that we get a piece of it.
The volume.
So when we go through this website, yeah, volume is very important. Certification is very important before you can sell anything to any country. Well, I mean, FDA is the basic. FDA just takes you to from or the harbor, and then from there you need HACCP, you need ISO, you need other stuff. I don't have HACCP yet, but what I did was that I made sure my clients knew we're doing the right thing.
Okay.
They wanted to have a video audit. We were there in the office and they was like, they want to do a video audit because of Corona, they cannot come. When can they do it? I just told them, do it now. So they called companies, they checked the whole factory, everything was fine. They gave us approval to export. So if you start doing basic things right, you will get it. But sometimes, I mean, the export market will not come on your lap because there's competition from Asia, there's competition from this. You have to spend a lot of time searching, being curious, listening to podcasts. And I'm sure that if you search diligently, you will find something for you. And that will only be your opportunity to export for the first time. If you can't, you might start looking for people who are already exporting such products and talk to them about how you can partner them, even if it is just giving them a portion. And you can learn from such people.
Thank you so much. So I think we would be wrapping up now. Our time is up already, 6 minutes above the time. So Joshua, I've put, for those of you watching, if you want to reach Groital Farms, I've put their contact on the screen now. You can email them at info@groital.com. Mobile is +233 054 07 10192. And you can also check their website at www.groital.com. Joshua, what would be your final words to our viewers and any words of inspiration or encouragement to those who tuned in today and those who are going to watch the recorded version?
Okay, so you see, I have so much to say, but I like talking sometimes. But let me tell you one thing. There's just two things that matter in life, which is reason and results. If you have reason to do something, you always get the result. You can have intelligence, but that doesn't mean you have reasons, which we see every day in the political sphere. People can talk big English, but they don't have the reason to do something. Because of that, they barely achieve it. So move past the stage of wishing, have a very good reason to pursue something, and then you will get it. Find your motivation. I mean, a lot of businesses I see in Ghana, because social enterprises is the thing these days, because people try to modify their businesses to be social enterprises, so they will get funding and grant like this. Please don't do that. If your business is not a social enterprise, don't force it to be a social enterprise. And it's just a shame to say that you like money. Make your business a profitable venture, and then you'll be okay. But one thing you need to know is that salaries and wages give you a living, but profits gives you a fortune. So try to chase profits in whatever you do, and then I'm sure that you would love it, or actually get the rewards that you want from it.
Thank you so much, Joshua. I mean, this has been super insightful. So many very positive feedback from our viewers and those who tuned in, and I'm very sure that when the story of Africa is told amongst those who champion the agribusiness campaign and really living the agribusiness narrative, I'm very sure that in a few years' time, we would see that Joshua's name would be among the forerunners. Thank you so much for making time for us, and really thank you. I really appreciate your time. And thank you for all those of you who tuned in to watch us today on People Who Inspire. And I do hope that we've been able to inject some modicum of motivation and inspiration for you to pursue your dreams and pursue your ideas. So thank you, and I'll come your way again next week with another episode. Thank you, Joshua, and enjoy your weekend. Bye-bye.
Weekend. Bye.